Hi, my name's Shawn Horseman, and I'm here today to tell my story about colic. As most parents, when we had our first son, and we thought, man, we rock this stuff as parents. This is easy gig. The kid slept through the night. He was happy baby. There's no problems. Hey, let's have a second child. So we went and we did. We had our second child, and she came out, beautiful little baby. But almost right out of the gate, we knew we were in trouble. When they were weighing her on the thing, she was giving us the bird and screaming her head off. We thought, oh, this one's going to be a firecracker. We thought that was kind of cute, and the nurses are kind of laughing about it. Anyways, we took her home, and right away we noticed there was something different. She had a little more fire in her. She cried a lot more. She seemed to be a little more fussy. She was having a lot of difficulty sleeping. So we thought, well, it's just a new baby, not a big deal. But as one day turned into another, we realized something was wrong because she never quit crying. So we took her to the doctor, and the doctor was just like, oh, well, it's colic. It's typical of kids. It'll pass in a couple weeks. They'll grow out of it. And we thought, okay. So we kind of bared down and put up with it, and we tried different things in the meantime. And no, the colic did not go away. After a couple weeks of this, we went back, and the doctor, our PCP, she had suggested, she's like, well, alter your diet a little bit. Maybe the food your wife is eating is, that she's having some type of reaction, so we need to adjust your wife's diet. So we did that. We adjusted my wife all the way down to plain Cheerios. That's all she ate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because the doctor was convinced of that. That didn't work. Then we went back and we looked at feeding schedules, sleeping schedules. We tried little bit of gas relief medicine. She said the baby probably just had too much gas. That didn't work. She said, well, it's just colic. They'll have to grow out of it. You're going on a month of dealing with a kid screaming its head off day and night, and you don't want to just grow out of it. You want it fixed. So we tried just about everything under the sun. We did diets. Well, I didn't do a diet, but the wife did diet. We did the gas medicine. We tried rocking in this position, sleeping in another position. We put her on top of the dryer on the or the wash machine on the spin cycle. We took her for car rides to different speeds. Went on gravel roads. Anything we could try to do to get this child to quit crying and to calm her down, we tried, and nothing worked. It was you start kind of losing hope after a while, and so this is going on a few weeks now, and I remember it was very late one night. It was probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and the wife was exhausted. Unfortunately she bore the brunt of most of the crying because she was home with her a lot more than I was, but it was very late, and the wife was exhausted, and my son was up. He was crying because he couldn't sleep because she screamed so loud. I mean, we'd even tried putting this child in the basement and shutting the door just to try and get some rest, and you can hear her screaming up through the vents. But anyways, it was late, and like I said, the wife was tired, this kid was tired, and I was exhausted, and I just holding this baby, trying to get her to be quiet, and I was just thinking, man, I'm screaming in my brain to shut up. I just want her to be quiet so we can get some sleep, and I could feel the anger getting a lot harder, my head getting hot, and I was starting to sweat, and I was getting really angry because why can't this child be quiet? She wasn't hungry, she was in clean diapers, she was being rocked, she was being sang to. I mean, it's everything you could think you could do as a parent, and she just wouldn't be quiet. And my brain was hurting so much, and I consider myself, I consider myself to be a pretty good person. I got a good faith. I work a normal job. I don't smoke, drink, do drugs. I would say I'm fairly normal in my mental capacities, and I can never understand how someone would want to hurt their child. But there came a point that night where the screaming was so incessant that I just wanted her to be quiet for just a second, just to get a break. And I put my hand over her mouth just to kind of silence that screaming. And I thought, I'll just do it for a second. And all of a sudden, I looked down at her, and she was hitting my hand with her hand. And she couldn't breathe. And this thing that really scared me is that I didn't want to take my hand off because I didn't care. I just needed quiet. It was just for that one moment. At one moment, I considered it. And I quickly, I mean, it was just a thousand, it couldn't have been more than just a second, but I could still feel her hit. And I pulled my hand off, and she gasped in air. And I was so scared that I could hurt her. And I put her down in her crib, and I went and told my wife. And I didn't touch my child after that for weeks. And I pushed it to my wife. And because I knew I couldn't handle that type of incessant crying. And I didn't want to hurt her. But what that did is it started to develop a much bigger wedge between the wife and I, because now she was left dealing with this colicky child, and there was nothing I was going to do to help her. I refused, and that's a pretty lousy husband-dad thing to do. But anyways, the days went on, and I was doing a women's fair down at Century 2, and I was walking by the display, and it was actually Dr. Scharenberg's display, and on the sign it says, I can successfully treat colic. And I kind of looked at that, and I read his little sign sitting up there, and I kind of scoffed a little bit, and out loud, and walked off, kind of indignant. And he actually walked over to me really quick and stopped me, and he was like, "Hey, what'd you laugh for? You want to tell me about it?" I was like, "No, whatever, man." And he goes, "No, really, I want to know." I was like, "Well, your sign says you can treat colic, and you have, your thing says you have good success with it." And I'm like, "Whatever, dude. No one can fix that terrible plague." And he's like, "Look, I can." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I called him a whack job or something." He just kind of looked at me. I was like, "Yeah, whatever. No one can fix that." And he's like, "Look, now this is on Saturday," and he goes, "You bring your baby to me tomorrow on a Sunday at 6 a.m. And he goes, because the show opened like at 9. He goes, "You come by my office at 6 a.m. I'll treat her for free. You just come by. And let me try and see if I can't help." And I was like, "Whatever, dude. I'll be there, but nothing's going to help this child." So I went home and told my wife about it, and she was like, she kind of threw her hands up. She goes, "If you want to take her, you take her. We've tried everything. I'm done." I just, she didn't want any part of it either. We weren't on very good terms. But I said, okay. So I took her, and by goodness, he was there the next morning waiting on me, and brought her inside, and he went to the back and kind of went through the whole process of what it was going to be. And he's like, "Look, he goes, I understand you're angry with her." He goes, "She's a baby." He goes, "There's, it's nothing she's doing to make you mad on purpose. Babies really only cry for 3 things. They're scared, they're hungry, or they're in pain." He goes, "That's just why they cry. That's how they communicate." And he goes, "She's in a lot of pain." And he kind of went through the whole process of some valve thingamabobber in her gut, and it's underdeveloped, and he's got a massage technique to help it. And I'm just kind of listening to him, wow, whatever, you're not going to help. Because I'd pretty much given up and just figured that's the way it was. And he just kind of smiled at me. He was like, "Let's go in the back." So we went in the back room, and he sat down, was just like super even calm, never raised his voice to her, never raised his voice to me, just this melancholy, like, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do," And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "She's going to get really mad at me." He goes, "And it's going to take a while, but it's going to be all right." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." Totally not having it, being totally disrespectful, and because I was going to prove him wrong with this child. And he's like, "I want you to feel her gut." And I felt it, and it was like rock hard. And he goes, "Just wait." And so he started working on her, and that kid lit up like you wouldn't believe. I'm surprised that somebody didn't call the cops. As loud as this kid is screaming in the back. And, I was looking, I was like, "I told you." He's like, "I've been doing it for like a minute. It's all right," And he's just working on her and talking to me and talking to her and doing his little whatever he was doing. And he was about the 45 minute mark, and I'm getting so frustrated and angry with it. I'm about ready to call it quits. And he just got this he got a smile on his face. He's like, "There she goes." And I looked down at her, and she had stopped screaming for just a second, but it was just to let out this like nuclear bomb explosion of screaming, because her face is like this bright purplish red. And she just like this, and he goes, "There she goes, there she goes." And he's just doing his hand, and she let out the single biggest fart I've ever heard a kid let. And I mean, it was just like, wow, I was a little child, and her face went white, and she didn't scream. In fact, she just looked up at him looked up at him and me as if to say thank you. And she, for once, after weeks going on into months of going through this colicky thing, I'd finally seen her smile as if to say thank you, Doc. And she closed her eyes and she passed out. And she fell right asleep. It's probably the first peaceful sleep she'd had in her life. And the first time I'd ever seen my little girl smile. And he was like, feel her belly now. So I took my hands and I felt her belly. And it was nice and soft. And he's like, this didn't take care of it all. He goes, it just gave her relief. He goes, I want you to come back tomorrow. And I was like, okay, well, now here's the catch. What's he going to be doing? He's sucking me in, but it worked, but my guard's back up. And I was like, what's it cost? He's like, look, he goes, I'm going to treat your daughter for free. And, I know he doesn't do that now because he's got so many babies, he's got to pay the bills. But, he's like, you just bring her back, I'm going to treat her. And he goes, we may have to do twice a day. And I was like, whatever, I'll do whatever you say, sir. And, I finally realized this guy wasn't about, hey, can I make money off this? He was wanting to help. And I asked him, why are you doing this? And he's like, there's so many kids have been killed from parents hurting their children because they just want them to be quiet. They shake them, they break their necks, they paralyze them, they hurt them. And he goes, it's my mission to help that and to help protect families from going through that type of tragedy, because then it's usually the dad that snaps and the dad's going to jail, or the mom's going to jail, or the family's broken apart. And I thought back to that night when I almost hurt her. And he's like, I just want to help people. And he did. He worked on that child. Wow, I think 3 weeks straight for the first set of treatments. He worked on her for about 3 weeks straight, twice a day, even on his days off, and we had him on speed dial for the weekends. Never charged us a dime. He's like, I'm just going to help you out because I see what you've been through. And it was just like this miracle, and he worked on her, and at first she slept for like a half hour, an hour. And then each treatment, she got a little bit longer, and then I think probably 4 or 5 weeks into it, she was finally done with her colic. He had treated it and did a miracle. I believe God works right through his hands, and he helped her, and she got through the colic. And I've read about people being able to help, but not with the success that I saw with Dr. S and the caring and compassion, and just the way he helped her. And I just know that I would have given my life to help that child not be in pain. I just thought she was a difficult baby. I didn't realize what was wrong. And I'd die for her now if I had to. I really thank God for Dr. S and what he's done and been able to help her. And now she's a beautiful girl, and she always has been, but she's just the young lady she is now. She's just beautiful and full of life and happy and still full of fire. Anyways, that's my story on colic and the miracle Dr. S provided for my family by helping her out and taking a jerk dad that was scoffing at him and called him a whack job and saying, I'll prove it. I can help treat your daughter and have great success. So there you go.